is Dan Sievert with mobileburn.com, and today I'm taking a quick look at the ZTE Warp for Boost Mobile. The Warp is a new Android-powered smartphone for Boost Mobile's prepaid service, and it can be used on Boost's unlimited prepaid plans that have been around for quite some time now. But let's take a quick look at the hardware and see what we've got. For starters, we've got a 4.3-inch WVGA display, so it's 480 by 800 pixels of resolution. So it's a pretty large display. You don't see that too often on a prepaid smartphone. It's definitely, you can see in the display where some corners were cut. The viewing angles are pretty poor. As you can see, the colors kind of wash out as you turn it to the side. And the display itself is a hard plastic as opposed to glass, so it doesn't feel quite as nice as a higher end phone. But it's still pretty responsive. As you can see, I can use a light touch to activate the screen right there. Now below the screen, you've got your standard capacitive buttons for home, menu, back, and search. Up above that, we've got an earpiece, and buried under there is a light sensor and notification light. There's no front-facing camera with the Warp. And the phone itself weighs about 140 grams, and it's about 11.4 millimeters thick. And if we take a look at the side here, we've got the left-hand side, we've got a volume rocker, and that's about it. A little bit of a microphone port there. On the bottom, we've got another microphone port and not much else. The right-hand side is home to a quick launch camera key, micro USB charging and syncing port, and then the top of the phone we've got a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack and a power sleep unlock key. Now if we take a look at the back of the Warp, it's got a soft touch rubber. It aids a little bit in grip, makes it easier to hold, but it does feel kind of cheap and a bit cheesy, to be honest with you. There's a 5 megapixel autofocus camera with a flash. Now that camera can record VGA video, but it does not do high def video. And then down there we've got a loudspeaker. Now if we pry off the rear cover, you can see we've got a 1600 milliamp hour battery. Boost says that you should be able to get about 5 hours of talk time or 9.5 days of standby with that. And then there's a 2 gigabyte micro SD card pre-installed. The Warp itself has about 2.5 gigabytes of internal storage available to the user once the OS and all the other software is on there. Now ZTE and Warp, Boost kept things pretty simple on the Warp. It's running a single core 1 gigahertz processor, it's got 512 megabytes of RAM, and it's got Android 2.3.5 Gingerbread with Boost's mobile ID system, which is almost exactly the same thing as the Sprint ID system on Sprint branded phones. So it's a very basic build of Android 2.3 Gingerbread. Even the home screens don't come pre-populated with very many widgets or shortcuts, just the ones on the front home page there, and then the other ones are empty, ready for you to customize. There is a quick shortcut to get to the ID system, so you can download packs of widgets and apps for different themes and stuff, so you can really customize the phone to your own personal wants and needs. The notification bar is standard Android, nothing really to write home about there. The app tray itself is the standard vertical scrolling app tray that we have seen on Android for a long time, but there you go. Boost and ZTE have installed a couple of extra apps. There's the Boost Zone app to access your Boost account. There is Documents to Go is pre-installed. This kind of a weird global time app here gives you a spinning globe, and you can spin the globe around yourself. You can move it around and stuff, and then you can overlay a time zone on top of that. So that's kind of cool. Usually you see this kind of stuff on a global capable phone, which the Warp is not, but it's there nonetheless. You got your standard Google applications there. There's the mobile ID again. There's a file browser, sound recorder, notepad application. They're really, but there isn't too much going on there. You got a lot of room to add apps of your own to really customize the phone to your own personal needs. The messaging app is exactly the same as a standard Android messaging app. Really nothing custom there. We do get a good look at the standard keyboard. So the standard keyboard is a XT9 predictive text keyboard, so you can get predictive texting there. It also supports tracing, so similar to Swipe. I don't find it as good as Swipe in my opinion. I find Swipe to be a little bit better, a little bit faster and more accurate, but you can always install that on here if you would choose to do so, but it is come with this out of the box. And if you don't like this particular keyboard, you can switch to the standard Android Gingerbread keyboard with a couple taps. One thing that I do wish ZTE and Boost had done a little bit more with is the standard email client that is installed. It looks pretty much like your standard Android email client that we've seen on most Android builds. That's really nothing frills about it. It supports multiple accounts. You can access or edit multiple messages at once, like so. However, there's some things I really don't like. It does support formatted text, as you can see, and it'll work in landscape as well, but it doesn't support pinch to zoom, which is really frustrating. Most all Android email accounts these days, or email applications these days, support pinch to zoom, and the one on the Warp does not. So you've got these kludgy zoom buttons up here that you can zoom in on your message, and the message will reformat the text at least, but it is not the most elegant system at all. If we check out the browser on the Warp, it's a pretty standard browser, as you might expect. It's pretty Android through and through, pretty typical. You've got multiple windows that you can access in a list. Let's load up mobileburn here. And there it loads up our mobile site. And let's see how it loads up the full web page. So it's still loading in the background there, and you can see scrolling is a bit slow while it's loading here. The web browser does support pinch to zoom, unlike the email client, so you can pinch to zoom, and once a web page is loaded, it's much faster. So you can see it's much smoother and faster than it was before. You can double tap to zoom when it cooperates. There we go. And of course the web browser works in landscape in addition to portrait. And let's see if we can play an embedded video here. And so it plays an embedded video. This is playing the HTML5 version as opposed to the Flash version.
This is Dan Seifert with mobileburn.com, and right now I'm checking out 1080p video recording.
And you can bounce between your open windows again. And you can see it's missing a plugin here. It doesn't support Adobe Flash Player, so you won't be able to see Flash video or Flash ads on the Warp itself. Now if we take a quick look at the camera interface, you can launch the camera by long pressing on the quick shutter key there on the side of the phone. It will hold, if you hold it for a second, it will launch the camera interface. Camera interface is standard stock Android. There really isn't any frills or adjustments here. You do have an interesting brightness slider, so you can adjust the brightness of the display, but you don't have any zoom controls. You can't zoom with the volume rocker, and there's no controls on screen to zoom. You got some settings options here. You can set your focus mode from auto or off. There doesn't seem to be a macro or close-up focusing mode. Some basic exposure settings. You got your 5 megapixels or quality settings there. A couple color effects, ISO, and then you have some color adjustment settings which you can play with there. Then you've got your basic controls for you can turn your location settings on and off, your white balance, and then your flash settings. Now the camera does support autofocus, so if you hold the camera shutter key halfway down, it will focus and beep, and pressing it all the way down will snap the photo. Focus isn't the fastest of any particular camera that we've seen before. And then you can review your photos afterwards, of course. And you can pinch to zoom on these. Now the video recorder is a little bit disappointing. It only records VGA video, so you can't record 720p HD even. But you got your basic controls here, and then you can hit the shutter, the record button here to start recording. Record your clip. Yay! You can't adjust. You can't zoom while recording. Doesn't seem. Oh, here we go. We can bring up a zoom control here. So rudimentary zoom controls, but it does not autofocus. And then we can play our clip back. Hit the shutter, the record button here to start recording. Record your clip. Yay. You can't adjust. You can't zoom while recording. Doesn't seem. Oh, here we go. We can bring up a zoom control here. So rudimentary. So there you have it. That's a quick look at the ZTE Warp for Boost Mobile. The Warp is a entry-level Android smartphone for the prepaid brand for Boost Mobile, but it does feature a nice big 4.3-inch display. It's not the best display that we've seen on the market, but you don't see displays of that size in the prepaid market too often. It's powered by a single-core 1 GHz processor, has about 512 megabytes of RAM, and there's roughly 2.5 gigabytes of internal storage to the user. The build quality is a little cheap feeling, to be honest with you. The rear casing has a soft touch rubber, but it feels a bit cheap in the hand, and it is very plasticky, and you can see where the ZTE really cut costs on the screen as well. The backside has a 5 megapixel autofocus camera with a flash, but it does not do HD video recording, so you are stuck with VGA quality video. And the phone itself is running Android 2.3.5 Gingerbread with Boost's mobile ID system, so you can really customize that to your heart's content, as there isn't too much customization done on the phone before you get it. You can pick up the ZTE Warp at Boost Mobile's stores across the country or online at Boost Mobile's website. It sells for about $199.99, and it doesn't require a contract, and you can use it on Boost's unlimited prepaid plans. So there you go. That's a ZTE Warp for Boost Mobile. This is Dan Seifert with mobileburn.com.